hey, there's a big issue that's going on right now. First of all, there's the largest transition of wealth in world history that's occurring. Second thing is 40% of that wealth is stored in America's small businesses. So these people are going to want to transact.
Hey, welcome to today's episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast. I'm one of your hosts, David Gilliland. We have the privilege of having Peter Fuller with Catapult AI with us today. He is the founder, CEO there. Welcome to the show, Peter.
Hey, thanks, David, for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
So are we. We were just talking before we started on this, and I'm hearing about the stuff you're doing, especially for people who are trying to build value in their business, value that the outside world says, oh, that's worth a lot, and I want to invest in or buy or loan to, whatever I can do to get my money in there and push it back out again with some interest, where you've got stuff for that. But how'd you get started? How did you start up this business? And just tell us briefly about it and what it really does.
Yeah, so it's a great question. So I was an entrepreneur, still am actually, but I started my early career out in Silicon Valley and built many different companies, had some great successes, had some fantastic failures that I could tell you about on another podcast if you want to do that. Learning experiences, I like to call them. And but through that experience, we became, when you're out in the valley, you're engrossed in KPIs, metrics, and driving value. You wake up every day with your death date already in front of you when you're going to run out of capital, and you know how to drive value for the next round or the exit, right? After I left my last company, I decided to become a business coach and worked with Vistage International and became a chair there, and many business owners. I had over 30 different clients through that experience and realized, hey, there's a big issue that's going on right now. First of all, there's the largest transition of wealth in world history that's occurring. Second thing is 40% of that wealth is stored in America's small businesses. So these people are going to want to transact. The third problem was a lot of these business owners like myself and everybody else who starts a business, we start by emptying the trash, level 3 KPIs, right? And then we grow up to level 2 KPIs, the things that run the company, but we don't ever get above them to those level 1 KPIs that Fortune 500s use and valuation driving companies use. And so that was a big gap. So we had a catalyst where one of my clients was going to sell for 100 million, and they got hit by the bank, only worth 65 million. Now they were very well run. I mean, they had SOPs. They were extremely run company. You wouldn't imagine that they would get hit with a discount. But they did. It was because they missed one metric. That metric was their concentration of revenue was too high in one customer. I spoke with hundreds of business owners, and this is the Achilles heel that's out there. So together with my group and my clients, we decided to create Catapult. Catapult is a directive to a certain extent, piece of software that'll preload the world-class metrics that most business owners don't see and don't know so that you can actually shape a business to it. So that's the general short version of what Catapult is and how I got there. So
I love that. And what's funny is those are the same metrics that end up like getting so many business owners where they don't realize. So concentration, to have a lot in one client's not a big deal. It just means you did a great job and the client loves you until they don't.
Until they don't.
And then it sinks a third of your business.
And
right.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like when you're running a business, you might think it's great because it's called the gravy train, right? I don't have to work too hard. The money keeps coming in. When you go sell the business, it's called the risk train, all right? That business, that client's going to lose. So if you balance it, we could talk for hours about this, but if you
No, I love it. Great value. Love that you got started in this. And welcome. I heard you confess to your disease as an entrepreneur with the rest of us. I think there's treatment and medication available that your family wished you had taken earlier. But we love hanging out with people like you.
Yeah.
People like this. So, it's a fun crowd to be in. You've learned some important lessons. A lot of them you've been sharing with other people along the way. I bet there's some real valuable nuggets, a few things you could teach us as entrepreneurs, as business owners in the 7-figure space. Maybe you learned just in your own business as you're recently in that space, or maybe it's ones you learned helping others through that spot. But what are some insights you could share?
Well, the most important was, and I wrote a book on it, it's called Start With You. So business owners as a class typically have higher divorce rates, suicide rates, drug addiction rates than other classes, most other classes. Most people don't know that, but it's a really lonely job. The reason we have that problem is because A, it's lonely, but we always sacrifice ourselves for the business, right? Instead of having the business work for us, we work for the business. And that's not the way we wanted it when we started the business. Somebody runs in, starts a business and says, geez, I can't wait to be a slave to myself, right? But it happens. So the idea really, psychologically speaking, if you start with yourself, put your goals first, it reduces the anxiety and you can actually do more and run the business better than you would if you sacrifice yourself. It's like the old putting your oxygen on. So, short example, I worked with a client, really excellent individual, expertise in Madison Avenue, started multiple agencies, but she had always wanted to become a yoga instructor for 20 years. Didn't want to do anything with it, just wanted to become that. Never thought she could do it. So we put in her outcome statement, look, start with you. The year is end. I'm going to be a certified yoga instructor. So that came first. The business came second. After 18 months, not only did she grow her business, doubled it, but she became a certified yoga instructor. See, when you have those little victories, right, and
Yeah.
the one spot, there's going to a kid's football game or doing something, right, then you feel like you can have the victories elsewhere. And so we start with the individual, and that's my recommendation. Don't put yourself last. Yeah,
I really love that. There's a lot of people who think I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. And they don't realize it's not time you're managing. It's energy.
it's energy.
And and when you're focusing on the things that really matter the most to you, you've got energy to do everything. Right? And it takes off. So I love that you brought that out.
Absolutely.
And I think most of us need that. We needed to hear it again and be reminded again. So
Yeah,
thank you.
for sure.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, no, I'm going to keep digging. I mean, I
Well,
found one
I got
nugget.
some
Let's
questions
go a
for
little
you
deeper.
too.
Give me another one, Peter.
I got some questions for you too. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Ask away. You can do whatever you want to. We can do it back and forth.
all right. Well, I know you're the expert on transitions, right? And so, um, as a company that's where we are, going to the next level, what do you see as the company journey? Because I've been with startups who have flush with cash, and the company journey is a little bit different when you can spend other people's money, than it is when you're spending. You can
It
go
is
crazy.
nice to.
You're either this or you're flat dead. So
Okay,
that's
so
not typical. So
I'm kind of funny about other people's money. To me, that's crack, is what that
it's
is.
opium.
It is, man. It just is. And if you were already headed the right direction, it might help you a lot. But
Right.
most of the time, it masks the problems inside,
It does.
and
It
you
does.
just have glorious explosions and destruction. and and that's what VCs specialize in, is
Right.
glorious destruction. One of 10 are going to get anywhere worthwhile, maybe two.
Yeah.
The rest of them are just going to be awful because they're pouring fuel into something that isn't working, so the engine just blows
It just
up.
blows up. You're right. Glorious fashion. I love it.
That's what that is. But what's fun though is you're right. There are these, we call them stages. There's
State.
stages of business growth, and they're predictable. And I would like to say they're at a revenue mark, but that's not really the case because inflation can change that all over. But they are at a team size. It's predictable, and they're related. You only get a certain team size with the revenue mark that you need. Um, if you're not getting there premature. So I'm gonna make this too muddled. So here we go.
I like it.
One person, you're getting going. What do you need to learn how to do it? One person, you've got to find leads. Give me some kind of leads out there. Is anyone going to talk to me? Right?
Right.
How do I begin this thing? I left my day job and now I'm doing this for real. One person full time is like, I just need more leads. How do I talk to more people? Where are the leads? And they're mastering that. Triple in size. They got 3 people. They got a couple helpers now. Now they're like, okay, I've got this help because we've got enough leads. I can't consistently close deals. I have to figure that out. And I'm selling anything to anybody. And that's okay right now for
Mhm.
most businesses
Yeah.
because you're really discovering the market. And
Right.
between 3 and 10, you're really doing that. You're like, So what is my market? Who's my ICP on this one? Like, what's this look like? And can I fulfill on it predictably? Like, I'm figuring out a product market fit. And if I got money early and I hired a bunch of team on and I'm at 20 people, but I still haven't figured out my product market fit, I'm really at this size, okay? And they shouldn't have trusted me with more money than that because I'm just going to waste it. So I have to be intentionally shooting 1,000 directions and then saying this one's paying better, this one's paying better, this one's right. We've got better skills here. We match up over there. These we've got better margins, right? Until we're like, oh,
Yeah,
got it, found my spot. Okay, so they have that important work to do. Let's say they're a business that's self-funded now. They've worked their way up there. Right around 10 people, there's a shift because the owner or founder, maybe there's two of them, but often there's just one, they were becoming an expert at everything. They had to figure everything in their business.
isn't that the truth?
Every stinking process. They were the accountant. They were the salesperson. They were doing the marketing. They were fulfillment. They were
Right.
the janitor. They had to figure out everything. And then they were just hiring someone else to fill in a role for them. Like an E-Myth thing, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
I'm just working my way out, right? That's what they're doing during this time. They're like, okay, so now here I am leading a business of a whole bunch of helpers around me. That is a burden.
for sure.
So there's your plateau right at 10 to 12 people. If you have two or three founders together that are super tight, they may get to 15 or 20. It has to do with this span of control. How
Right.
many people, or better yet, span of influence? Control is just a
Illusion.
misbelief, right? It's just wrong. It's a fallacy. So this span of influence, um, you're one person, one founder, you're going to get to about 10 and you're going to be maxed out. Somewhere between 7 and 12, that's it. And the max out looks like revenue up, revenue down, revenue up, revenue down, because you're chasing sales, you're fulfilling, you're chasing sales, you're fulfilling, right?
Yeah.
And you think you have a cyclical business, but you don't. You're cyclical. So that's an
It's
issue.
hard
And
hitting
then
right there.
are you feeling that right now where you're at?
It's never the owner's problem. It's everything around.
Everything else did it.
Everything else.
So I don't know. And you may feel like I'm fixing from 9 to 5. They're supposed to be fixing all the problems, but from 5 to 9, I'm fixing all the problems they caused. Right? Like it's just like you're killing yourself
Right.
just to keep everyone else employed.
Yeah.
That moment just means I didn't shift gears fast enough.
Mhm.
And so I'm in the wrong gear and I'm pedaling like crazy, and other people are whizzing by me. And I'm wondering why.
Yeah.
Just shift gears. And the gear shift is first at this one stage is learn how to get the vision out of your head. And I have vision as a very clear thing. First is what's our real purpose? A purpose beyond just profits, because my team doesn't care how much money I bring home for myself. And
Yeah.
so I need a purpose that gives meaning. Here's the impact we're going to have. Yours is an easy one in one respect. It could be your team may take it another direction with you, but I mean, you're helping people realize the full potential their business really has and understand and finally see the dashboard I should have been looking at to create stable wealth generation, either for a sale or for continuing. Those were key things, right?
Yeah.
You're freeing these people up. That's kind of ennobling. So you could get a big purpose up here. We're freeing up the entrepreneur to finally succeed the way they always wanted to. You know, that knowledge is
Yeah.
power. You're giving them power. Okay. So here's a purpose. Then you've got to get the core values out that say who belongs here. So if this is the meaning people find, now they're looking for belonging.
Mm.
You give people meaning and belonging, that's powerful. You're going to tap into discretionary effort where they want to lift with you. You've got to find those who really match the values you really are, not the values you wish you were. I don't want people shooting all over themselves. I
Right.
want them saying who we really are and finding people like that. Okay? We're going to get that and we're going to lean into that. Then finally they want a sense of contribution. So you want to tap into the power of your team so they're not just helpers you're dragging along, but instead they're lifting the business with you for the next 3x part of your growth. They have to know here's the big thing we're doing. Like let's help 500 entrepreneurs realize their dreams by 2026 or something, right? You got a date, You could measure it. You're going to, right? Every time a win comes
Sure.
in, everyone celebrates it. And when we hit that big thing, we celebrate big. Now, those have matching goals over here of mission goals, which probably have most people have just the tier two metrics that we're talking
Right.
about: profits, um, CAC, LTV, that kind of stuff,
Exactly.
right? Instead of your tier one, but you could put tier one stuff in there and help everyone else get there too. That should be part of these mission goals. Tier one kind of metrics to really win, along with tier two ones to ensure we're keeping the bills paid, right? And so running that, those align perfectly with that 500 that we're going to do by 2026. Just start bringing it down, annual
Right.
metrics. So you've got to get out of your head this vision and into the minds and hearts of your team in a way that matters to them. And it's a discipline. You don't have to be a charismatic leader. It's just a craft. How you say it regularly, how you get them to say it regularly, what you celebrate, what you talk about, how you show why you're deciding. So we got to fix this problem for this customer. How are we going to help them realize their dreams through this problem we're solving for them right now? Let's be clear. Let's do this in a way this way, or in line with this value we have of radical transparency. That could be one of your
Yeah.
values, right? It's like
Radical
that's a
transparency.
value for us. And so they'll be solving it that way, right? That's how we build it into them. That's key work to do. Is get clear about the vision and then ensure we have the people that are going to live that with us and weed the ones out who aren't in a dignified, respectful way, get them to another place they're going to shine. We need to bring the people in that will lift with us now, not just be helpers. That will be your 3x growth. Then you're going to hit another one. And then it's like, oh, now I have to become a leader builder. I'm not even about metrics anymore. I'm about building leaders that build metrics, that lead teams, that they're the ones making the vision real every day and keeping a culture alive with people I've never touched.
Yeah.
That's a new game. And that shift will give you another 3x run. There'll be some systems you have to change too along the way. You'll need to fix more of those metrics that aren't being run right, right? There'll be a few other things, but um, those are keys. With standard operating procedures, absolutely. Those have to be built along the way, but they'll change. Every time you triple in size, they're going to be changing on you. So get used to changing them, updating them, getting them real again. That was probably too much, right? But
No, I like it.
give me some
You know,
response here, Peter. Where are we at? How's that feel
so
for you in your current place?
well, it's funny you mentioned the 5 year, the changing. Out in the valley, we have this expression. When it gets to that certain point you're talking about, then it's time to bring in the adults, and the founders go off and do something else. Adult
Yeah,
leadership is what we call it. But you're right. That transition is sometimes it's not the people who start can't make the transit aren't the sustainers, right? And that's almost a
that's a
sustain.
that is a VC belief.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen it play out where they make the transition over and over and over again.
Yeah.
The the difference is well, are you building the support so that you can be becoming the person your team needs? You have to become the leader your team needs a year from now, 2 years from now. You have to be doing that now. You
Exactly.
can't wait until it's time or puts the brakes on, and VCs have no patience for the brakes. And that's why they swap them out.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's conscious, intentional work that you're doing now to become the leader your team needs later. And I've just seen leaders that you would think, no way, I don't even know how they're running a business, go from the 700,000 annual revenue place to 40, 50 million, and lead at each one of those stages, even though they were stuck down here for years.
Yeah. 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 That's
And so
true.
it's like, no, you can become it.
Yeah.
But we use good boards of advisors for that. You use good consultants or good mentors. Without that, you're not going to make the change. So
Absolutely. For sure. Jeez. No, that's good. When I was starting my companies, one thing I realized with employees, I don't know if you've felt this way or run into this, but um, have you heard of Gestalt therapy?
yeah, go on.
Yeah, so most people don't apply it to business, but it's really cool. It says let the figure emerge from the background
Hmm.
is sort of one of the principles of it, and that always struck me. So when I was working with some team members, I decided, you know what, I'm going to let the figure emerge from the background. So I brought in people into positions, but what's one thing that has been successful is watching them, right? Seeing who they actually are, because sometimes they don't really know who they are when they come into a position, but not being
Yeah.
so rigid where they're in a box. So I've had some fantastic people who started in one spot, but realized, their true passion, and this is what's important, it starts with you, right? It has to be their passion, is over here in this department. And when you realize, and when you can align somebody with their passion as much as possible,
Yeah.
it's like, putting kerosene on gasoline or whatever the metaphor is. And that's worked over and over. I've brought in people who are more admins, and then they became right the best copywriters I've ever run into. Working for me. Another one became a director of product marketing and product. And so it's just amazing when you do that, that you can not only de-risk it because you keep that intelligence in house, right? But you also foster an environment where people feel like, hey, I can move, and this person's actually paying attention to me. And so,
I love that, Peter. What I like is, I mean, that's the perspective not of I've hired someone to fit him into a spot like a cog into my machine,
right, right,
but instead I planted something and I'm trying to see what it grows into,
exactly, because
right?
people will
And
surprise you, right?
they'll surprise you every time
Right.
if we really do that well. We use a little process, so I'll have a quarterly rhythm, strategy rhythm. So you've got operations running all the daily. Just like I said, the leader has to become the leader your team needs 6 months, a year, 2 years from now. Same with the business. We have to build the system our business needs to be 6 months from now. And that's strategy work. And I'll use that and every quarter build two, maybe three priority teams that pull people from anywhere in the company, from any role that are hitting their basic metrics. They're doing their job, and we see a little extra potential in them.
Yeah.
They get to serve on a strategy group. They get to say, I went in on that one and raise their hand. That's the title. That's what we're doing. I went in on that one. And then they get to help build it. And they may be like a BDR or something. And they're over here like building a new process for how we're going to give the most awesome customer experience ever. And they shine in that. And it's just a temporary thing for 3 months.
Yeah.
But they get to plug in and do and get coaching and have exposure to the executive that whole time.
That's
Right.
fantastic.
And so it's a chance to see what are they growing into.
What are
So
they?
you could try them out without ever promoting them to a new position. it's
Right.
it's the extra credit. It's what they get to go play with, and you can tap into people. I mean, I've had guys who like had a shovel in hand working on the crews doing road work that are pulled in on a strategy thing because they were just good at it. So they were allowed to spend an hour a week working on this other stuff, and you get to
Yeah.
see them bloom. So I love that you do that. That's one of our systems we use to help us to do what you were talking about.
Oh
You do
yeah.
naturally.
Yeah. It's excellent because when you treat people like, I hate to say not like employees, but they are. But like you said, not like a cog, but it's
Yeah.
somebody who can actually breathe something into your company that you may not have thought of. Um, it just creates a better environment. I found. Now, it doesn't work with all employees. Some employees just want to be cogs, and some want to be monkey wrenches in the works, and then jam things up. But usually, it lets the good ones float to the top, right?
Yeah. Some are not aligned with the vision, right? With your purpose that drives them, the core values that match, or that don't have the skills or the drive to help us hit that mission that's so important. And those, let's let them shine somewhere else. And there's
So,
a way to do that.
so as you know, we use metrics. What's your thought on metrics? You mentioned it earlier when you were
They're just so key. When
loving.
the metrics are clear, what I love about it is like, I don't have to manage people anymore when metrics are clear.
Excellent. Yes.
The metrics manage. My job is to help them to hit those out of the ballpark. It's totally different. Instead of like challenging face off against somebody when they're having a performance issue, we're on the same side of the table looking at that and saying, how are we going to conquer that? We
Yeah.
have to figure that out. We've only got this much time, but I believe in you. What's your plan?
Right.
How can I help? And if they're working it and going like crazy, I see them blooming, but I still see this role isn't the right one, I can get it, I can do another role. If I see them disheartened, not caring, dragging their feet, I can help them find another organization.
Yeah.
But I don't have to manage them. The number does that. I get to help them shine. My job is help them like sprout those wings and take off. to hit the
Yeah.
number. So metrics are fantastic
Yeah.
when they're used well, and they're a stretch but realistic. Like none of these, uh, shoot for the moon and beat you up every time you don't get there. You're like, wait a second, it
Yeah.
takes a little while to hit the moon. So, but
Well,
and within their control. So
that's a really good point. It takes a while to get to the moon. So we seem to have these same philosophy. So when we approach metrics, it's they're never punitive, right? We stick a metric as something to be achieved and measured against, right? And so we have this game that we teach people to play. It's called Solve for the Deltas. So it streamlines strategic planning and cuts time, literally time in half, sometimes 60% reduction in time, because the brain only solves the problems as given, right? So if you come
yes,
into a strategic meeting with an open-ended problem, you're going to end up with an open-ended strategic meeting, which is
which
white
is
papers, everything. And
pretty
this,
lame.
yeah, 3 hours later, and 3 days later, really, you still haven't come up with much. But we found that when you give people the problem to solve for, it's very specific. Like we achieved 10, we need to be at 20, and you celebrate the 10, right? And then you say, we're only going to solve for 10 here, 10 more. It's a much different psychology because if you come in and say, you're supposed to hit 20, you failed to meet 20, now we're going to build a plan to hit 20. The brain just shuts down with that word failure.
Yeah, they're like, I just worked my tail off
Right. And
and I
then,
didn't get there. That's
exactly. And then they start to
not
relate
the
to the number 10 differently. Like, well, if I could only achieve 10, what makes you think I'm going to achieve 20? Right. So it's just a whole, when you change the context and say, it's fantastic, you achieved 10, of course you can achieve another 10 more. Boom.
yeah.
And all of a sudden people start solving problems like, this is what I could do to do more 10. It's the brain's fascinating, but the treating KPIs like that, I found really generates a lot of um,
A lot of energy, right?
creativity and just better atmosphere. You get so many better ideas, right? So,
Yeah. Yeah. We find that the positivity and the science behind that shows that with positivity, creativity is unlocked.
right.
Possibilities are there instead of feeling trapped and blocked. So the philosophy is great. The tool sounds awesome. Why don't you give, because we're out of time.
Oh,
I feel like we could
that was
spend
fast.
another 3-4 hours just riffing on it. But why don't you shoot to the listeners? How could they get in touch with you or in touch with this tool? How could they access and say, what are these level one metrics anyway?
Yeah, yeah.
How do I build my business around this? How do they contact you, Peter?
Yeah, so my email is peter@catapult.ai, and it's CATIPULT.ai. So you have to spell it that way. We have a free business assessment that goes over the core six. It's really fast, core six KPIs that run every company in the world. And it is on the homepage of our website, catapult.ai. So, two great things. Take the business assessment, it'll be eye opening for people. And you can try the software for $1. So,
That sounds awesome. Thank you
yeah,
so much. That wraps up today's episode of the Seven Figure Journey podcast, where we explore the ins and outs of the seven figure journey. Peter, thank you for being a guest on our show today. We loved having you. And for
yeah,
all of you listening in, I hope that you'll share, do all the things to make this episode more available to all the other seven figure business owners out there. Keep striving, keep learning, keep caring, and keep pushing towards your goals. Until next time.